Carolina can now directly pay student athletes, but it means that amateur college athletics is officially dead.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, June 9th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Monday going the right way. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. What's up and welcome in. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. Coming up on the show today, I am back. It's great to be back after a week off on vacation with my family. I hope you enjoyed all the pre-recorded shows last week, but boy, was there a lot that happened. Luka Bogavac committed right before I left. Ben Allen Lubin off to NC State. We'll talk about that this week. Carolina wins some baseball games and loses some brutal losses over the weekend to end the season. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But where we got to start today is that as I was coming back from my vacation on Friday, the House settlement was finalized. And so we need to talk about what that means in general, what it means for Carolina, because there are a whole bunch of tentacles to this thing. And we're not going to be able to unpack it all on today's show. I'll just tell you that right now. But we're going to start unpacking it because I want to make sure that I keep you up to date with everything I can on this House settlement. So here we go. The House settlement was finalized back on Friday, June 6th, by U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin. Funny enough, my understanding is it was the last big case she was taking before she retired. So she's like riding off into the sunset. Congratulations, Judge Wilkin. Let me give some context first with this thing, because I think there's been some misunderstanding. When people hear the House settlement, I think the prevailing assumption is that means House of Representatives or like half of Congress, right? I just threw my baseball. And that's actually not true. When we say House settlement, it's just shorthand for House versus NCAA. And the House in reference is not the House of Representatives, but actually a former swimmer from Arizona State named Grant House. Just an unfortunate naming situation here. He sued back in 2020 the Power 5 conferences and the NCAA. So the NCAA along with ACC, Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, and SEC. And what has just been settled is actually 3 separate antitrust suits that had all come together under the umbrella of House versus NCAA. The representing antitrust lawyers here were Steve Berman and Jeffrey Kessler. So here's there are, as I said, multiple big results that we're going to talk about today. The first of which is the ramification that now institutions can directly make payments to student athletes based on, name, image, and likeness out of revenue share. So all schools from the Power 5 conferences, yes, including the Pac-12, which was a thing when this started and will be a thing again for the 26-27 school year. So each of the Power 5 schools that I just named are participating in this. Now, the other schools, the other Division I conferences, I guess I should say, can choose to opt in or opt out, but must formally do so by this upcoming Sunday, June 15th, Father's Day. Heck of a way to spend Father's Day. And then at that point, they will make a full list of participating schools. They're going to make that public. Now, here's the interesting thing. Schools outside of those Power 5 conferences can choose to opt in or opt out every single year. But here's the kicker. They have to notify the NCAA by March 1st of the previous year. So, for example, if you didn't opt in for this year, 25-26, but you wanted to for 26-27, you would have to let the NCAA know before March Madness even starts, by March 1st of 2026. That's pretty crazy. And so here's the deal. There's this new rev share agreement that will begin this year on July 1st. It's a 10-year agreement that has been reached. And basically, for this first year, the expectation is that each school doesn't have to, share up to approximately $20.5 million with their student athletes. And that's expected to increase by at least 4% every year. Now, what's interesting is there's no specific framework for how these schools will divide up that $20.5 million amongst their student athletes, the entirety of them. And so it's like up to schools, right? The expectation is that each school will kind of find its own thing, but that there might be some framework for what that looks like. Here's what I mean. A part of this settlement is that there is $2.8 billion in antitrust settlement in back pay to student athletes who competed at the Division I level from 2016 up through 2024. So like that past decade. That $2.8 billion is going to be given to all those student athletes. And the breakdown of that is 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and 5% to everyone else. That ain't much for all the rest of the sports outside of those big three. But the reason I bring that up is because schools are kind of expected to be able to dole out that $20.5 million essentially at a similar rate. And a lot of schools are going to choose to do that. 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's, and the final 5% to the rest of the sports. So what does all that mean for Carolina, right? That's what we're here. That's what we're talking about. Well, first off, the Tar Heels, as one of the Power 5 schools, will opt into this and can, all right, this money isn't coming from the NCAA. That's the thing. Carolina has to generate it themselves. We'll be able to dole out $20.5 approximately, that's the expectation, $1 million to all the student athletes. Now, what's interesting for me is I think the Tar Heels are a really interesting case study in this because, like, you think about an SEC powerhouse like Georgia, for example. Obviously, they're going to dole out the vast majority of their money to the football team because that's where the biggest rev share or that's the biggest revenue generating sport. And that's where the biggest rev share is going to go. So for Carolina, the biggest draw, it's a basketball school, right? That's where that is the entity. That's the blue blood. That's what everything is. But Carolina has invested a ton of money in the past year into football to work at making it on the cutting edge, one of the biggest competitive things. And so I'm really curious to see how Carolina will dole out its rev share. Will it go primarily to the football team with the next big chunk going to basketball? But what's the inequity there? Because again, the basketball team is the front porch to Carolina, but because of football money, the football team, helmed by Bill Belichick, is probably still the bigger money thing. But then at Carolina, you've got women's basketball. And then in totality, you've got 28 varsity sports. How is the money going to be spread around to all these entities? We don't know. And I don't know that the schools will make it public. Maybe some anonymous surveys. But when you've got all of these sports, field hockey, women's soccer, women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, baseball, softball, the tennis team, so many phenomenal programs at Carolina, but they're not going to benefit at the level of football or men's basketball, for example. So man, really curious to see how this goes. Like, because there is no part of this settlement that regulates how you have to dole out this rev share money. You get to choose that as a school. Will it be cause for consternation within the athletic department? Does Bubba just put his fist down and say, Bubba Cunningham, say, this is what we're doing? Does he consult with the other coaching staffs? Does he talk man, I'm just really curious to see how this all plays out. And again, because of the nature of trying to bring the football team up, Carolina is an interesting case study. Now, the revenue share is the direct payment to student athletes is the biggest part of this thing. But another factor, and the next place I want to go, is the NIL side of it, because one of the biggest issues has been reining in NIL. Well, student athletes can still get paid via additional NIL money in addition to this revenue share, but that's going to look a lot different going forward. I'll explain in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the NBA Finals are in full swing. Tied up one game apiece. Thunder weren't messing around on Sunday night. They're like, nah, we ain't getting fooled again. And every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot like Hallie in Game 1 or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it so easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live as well. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans like you have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. Game 3 is coming up in Indy on Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, the series knotted at one game each. Thunder, favored by 4 on the road, is the initial betting line there at FanDuel. Go check that out for sure. And if you're new to FanDuel, now's the perfect time to sign up. You can head on over to FanDuel.com. And again, if you place your first $5 bet and it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. So go ahead. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we're talking the finalization of the House settlement today, House versus NCAA. It's great to be back with you. I was gone all last week, and man, I'm elated to be back. And of course, we're talking legal stuff today. But one of my goals always with the show is I want to be a place where I can unpack things for you in ways that make sense and are helpful, right? Like, my job is to study and read and research everything I can to deliver the very best truthful things to help make potentially confusing things become more clear. That said, I know I can't do everything here on the show. So if you have questions about any of this stuff, please reach out in our Discord. If you're an insider, a Locked on Tar Heels insider, reach out to me there, wherever it is. I want to help unpack this as much as possible. So there you go. So we started with talking about the revenue share side of things and how the schools, the institutions, can now directly pay student athletes, meaning amateurization of college athletics, dead. It already essentially was. This is like the final and firm nail in the coffin. Now we got to look at the NIL side of it because, again, there are so many tentacles to this thing, but this is the next major one for our purposes here on the show. NIL has been going on, right? Like, Isaac, haven't student athletes already been getting paid for their name, image, and likeness? Yes, they have, going back to July 1st, 2021. So just shy of 4 years of that. But all of that money had come from third-party entities, right? There wasn't any NIL tied to direct payments from the school. This settlement is going to allow for students to continue to benefit from third-party NIL money, but now they're trying to find a better way to regulate it. And the question is, okay, so is this going to level the playing field? Well, NCAA President Charlie Baker sure seems to think so. He says, quote, approving the agreement reached by the NCAA, the defendant conferences and student athletes in the settlement opens a pathway to begin stabilizing college sports. This new framework that enables schools to provide direct financial benefits to student athletes and establishes clear and specific rules to regulate third-party NIL agreements marks a huge step forward for college sports, end quote. So here's how they're going to do it. These power conferences that were as part of this settlement created an independent body called the College Sports Commission, or CSC. Very quickly after the stuff was finalized, they announced who their CEO is going to be. His name is Brian Seeley. He was formerly MLB's EVP of Legal and Operations. And basically, as part of the College Sports Commission, these power conferences worked with a group called Deloitte to make something that is called NIL Go. And NIL Go is basically, I'll just read it to you direct from CSC's, the College Sports Commission, we'll call it CSC, from their website. NIL Go, quote, is an online portal built with assistance from Deloitte to determine whether third-party NIL deals are made with the purpose of using a student athlete's NIL for a valid business purpose and do not exceed a here's the key phrase, reasonable range of compensation. And what they're doing is trying to rein in all this pay for play money where it's like, hey, my name's Farmer Bob and I run the local Ford, and I'm just going to give you $8 million to come to school here and play for us. Because the goal, the purpose, the intention of NIL, y'all, as a reminder, is that you, as a student athlete who competes for this university or institution, can benefit from your name, image, and likeness because you are playing here. And so instead, Johnny, the Ford dealer owner, can say, hey, come, we're going to set up an agreement where you're going to come sign autographs for an hour. And I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars. And basically what the NIL Go is going to do is regulate the third-party NIL deals that are $600 or above. Anything under that, you're good to go. So I think I'm just waiting to see an influx of NIL deals that come in at $599.99 so they don't hit this threshold where they got to go to NIL Go. Now, here's what's interesting. You know, I mentioned earlier that not all schools, like the Power 5 conference schools, have to opt into all of this. But schools that don't opt into the rev share, it doesn't matter with this. They will still be bound by NIL Go's determinations. So that's what's interesting. Now, here's the other part of this. The third-party NIL stuff with NIL Go doesn't start on July 1st like rev share. It actually started this past weekend, Saturday, June 7th. So it's already going. So if I was a student athlete and I signed at North Carolina and I was on the baseball team and I was signing a third-party NIL deal today, Monday, June 9th, I would have to submit it right now to NIL Go. And that's part of the, we're getting a lot of answers, but it also raises more questions. One of mine is who submits these third-party deals to NIL Go? Do I, as the student athlete, does the Ford dealership in this example we've been using, do they do it? Does the compliance office, does my agent, who submits it? We're not clear on that yet. And it's interesting because a lot of the language leading up to this has been that they're going to use the language of NIL Go, making sure that things are fair market value, but instead they use the language of reasonable range of compensation based on multiple factors. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. There's not that much difference. And basically what this is doing is allowing things to be more general so that it can't be taken to court like the NCAA has been done over and over and over and over, which is another point. The College Sports Commission is not an NCAA entity. It is a separate independent institution. And the question for me is, are the determinations of NIL Go, are they going to held up in court, or will the CSC, the College Sports Commission, be as inept, I don't know the word, like lack teeth like the NCAA does, or will they actually be able to have something with this? Will it be enforceable? I don't know. And the question for me, part of it is what's going to determine the range of compensation, right? Because where I live here in Southwest Missouri might be wildly different than something in Chapel Hill or Chicago or New York, or, cost of living. Does that factor in? The CSC website says that these factors will be included, but not limited to, quote, the deal's performance obligations, the student athlete's athletic performance and social media reach, the local market, and the market reach of his or her institution and program, end quote. That's a whole bunch of factors, and again, but not limited to. So there's all of this at play, and it's just, is this going to work? Or is it just going to force everything back under the table like it used to be? Because people don't want to mess with Am I going to get cleared? And I don't know what that's going to look like until we start seeing these third-party NIL deals go through. Like what gets passed and what doesn't. Does it seem logical, or is it, is there not a consistency to what gets passed and what doesn't? I gotta say, I'm skeptical because of how things have gone thus far with NIL that this is going to do anything to fix anything. I hope it does, but I just don't see it being able to fully fix pay to play, because that's always been around even before NIL, and I think it always will be. It's tough. But anyway, that's the plan. That's what is supposed to happen. And again, this is already in the works now, that these third-party NIL deals are supposed to already start being submitted. So hopefully we'll start to find out some of what's being approved and not, and then we can get a good idea of what's going to happen. So yeah, there's that. Now, there, as I said, a ton more to unpack with this house settlement, roster limits. Yeah, that's a whole new thing, all sorts of other stuff, but there's no more room on it on today's show. So we'll get to that in the coming days and weeks. I promise you that. But for now, we got to go to the pain of the weekend, where Carolina started out hot against Arizona in the Super Regional, and then Saturday and Sunday did not go well. We'll talk about that to wrap up the baseball season in just a second. This is a tough one. The Diamond Heels are done. The season is over. And I got to tell you, I did not see this coming. I mean, obviously, sure, anything's possible. But I could not fathom a world in which Carolina lost the series to Arizona. The Tar Heels went absolutely hog wild on Friday against Arizona, winning 18-2, holding down the Wildcats. It wasn't even Jake Knapp's best performance, but the offense just did everything it needed to do. Saturday was an absolutely wild game, a game in which if Carolina wins, they're on to the College World Series. At multiple points in this game, the Tar Heels had a lead, including the top of the seventh, when Carolina was down 6-4, put up a 4 spot, and you're thinking, yeah, messed around, but here you go. Bass bomb, Carolina has the lead. They're going to win this thing. Here comes McDuffie, and he just didn't have it, man. And that's sports. Some days you're locked in and you got it, and other days you just don't. And so Arizona puts up their own 4 spot in the bottom of the seventh, and nobody else scores the rest of the game. 10-8, Wildcats win. All right, we're on to Sunday. Carolina had burned all 3 of their weekend starters, bringing in Aiden Houck in game 2. But in each of the last close them out games, the Tar Heels have turned to freshman Ryan Lynch. And boy, has he delivered. Let me remind you, in the ACC tournament championship game against Clemson, 4 innings pitched, no runs, 7 strikeouts, 83 pitches. Carolina blows the doors off the Tigers. Regional final on Monday against Oklahoma. Same thing. 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, 82 pitches. Carolina blows the doors off of Oklahoma. On Sunday, in the Super Regional Game 3 against Arizona, it was a matchup of 2 freshmen. Arizona had one going as well. What was his name? Smith Bailey. And, going into it, my hope for Ryan Lynch was, all right, at least 5 innings. 5 innings would be glorious for this thing. 4 maybe doable. Maybe you can string it together depending on how the offense is doing. Anything 6 or more is just absolutely perfect. And I wrote this in my notes, and so I'm going to say it now. Win or lose, this has been an absolutely incredible performance from the freshman Ryan Lynch. And what happened to Carolina at the end of the game takes nothing away from that. This pitching performance from that young man was everything and more that Carolina needed to win this game and advance to Omaha. And that's part of the of it. 7+ innings pitched. You couldn't get any outs in the 8th. 3 hits, 1 earned run, just that 1 home run, 1 base on ball, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, 91 pitches. And before he exited the game with 2 on in the 8th, which probably shouldn't have been, we'll get to that in a second, through the first 7 innings of this game, never in any single inning did more than 1 player reach, including 4 innings of 3 up, 3 down. The 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 7th. This dude was cruising. Gives up a single to start the 8th. And then the wheels started to fall off. But here's where we go to this thing. This is a game, a winner-take-all game is often who flinches first, who makes the first error. And both teams were pretty locked in. To Arizona's credit and their freshmen, I was not worried at all about Carolina's offense. I thought they would, just go off the handle. And the question was going to be, could they hold down Arizona's offense? Well, I was wrong in my offensive assumption for Carolina. And the answer was yes, that Carolina could hold down Arizona. And Jackson Vanderbrake hits this 3-run homer. Carolina's been up 3-1 for the vast majority of the game. And here is where it turned. In the who flinches first conversation, bottom of the 6th inning, Carolina up 3-1. Arizona makes a critical error on what should be probably an inning-ending double play. Ahmad was running. He probably still could have beaten it out. But ground ball to first. He throws it. It's a little bit high to the shortstop, who tries to keep the bag while also going up to get the catch to start the double play. And the ball is just a little too high for him, pops out of his glove. Stoke gets all the way to 3rd. Ahmad's safe at 1st. And it's like, got to capitalize. Literally wrote that in my notes. Carolina has to capitalize on this. You got to make them pay for flinching first and making an error. What happens? Bass grounds into an inning-ending double play. We move to the top of the 7th. That goes fine. Then in the top of the 8th, Carolina does essentially the exact same thing. Lynch gives up that single. And then the second batter of the top of the 8th is tailor-made double play ground ball to Jackson Vanderbrake. 4.63 written all over it. 2 outs, nobody on. Ryan Lynch is still pitching. But he muffs it. That happens, man. That's. But the thing is, Arizona squelched Carolina's. Could Carolina do the same? The answer, it turned out, was no. Coach Forbes goes and gets Ryan Lynch there. There's a lot of second guessing that. I would have done the same thing. Probably told him before the inning kind of situation. Hey, you're 10 pitches over your career high. We're watching it, whatever. So time to bring in McDuffie. Had a rough day on Saturday, but let him get back. So Arizona's trying to get a sac bunt to get the runners over to 2nd and 3rd. They get the bunt down. Gavin Gallagher comes out. I mean, it's a great sac bunt. Gallagher fields it. Should be an out. The ball hits the runner. There's a collision between Vanderbrake covering first as Stoke came in to field the bunt and the runner. He's down and out, but the ball squirts away. A run scores. The other runner moves to 3rd. So they've got runners on 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and now it's only 3-2 Carolina. Kind of the painful irony is that runner from Arizona that was down for the count never actually touched first. Go back and watch. I mean, he eventually did when the pinch runner came in and went back to the bag. But had Stokely had the wherewithal to grab the ball and tag him as 1 out runner on 3rd. Tough. Next batter, base on ball. Next batter, great pitch sequence from McDuffie results in just the Arizona batter fisting it off, and a little blooper to Stokely, grabs it, 2 outs, and then Aiden Houck comes in and gives up a single up the middle, bases loaded, and that's the final, the tying and go ahead, ultimately winning runs of the game. 4-3, Arizona does it. And then comes the double play, Cruelly, 1 batter later. And that was it. Carolina couldn't do anything else. Bottom of the 8th, couple runners on, Ahmad grounds out. Bottom 9th, they bring their closer back in, 1, 2, 3. That's it, and that's all she wrote. And so, man, just a great performance from Ryan Lynch, and then the painful juxtaposition of Arizona being able to weasel their way out of their botched double play while Carolina could not. Unfortunately, because of his error, there was some Jackson Vanderbrake hating going on. We won't stand for that here on Locked On Tar Heels. Couple reasons. The dude literally hit the 3-run bomb that gave Carolina their only runs of the game. Without him, the 1 run that Arizona hit, the solo shot, that's it. Physical errors happen. But also, you can't expect to score just 3 runs and win a super regional game. I mean, sometimes you can, but it's college baseball. Come on. Carolina's offense couldn't do it either. And so, yeah, it sucked. I mean, that is something that Jackson Vanderbrake will never forget, and he's going to live with that, right? My error at second base probably cost us a trip back to Omaha. And yes, that should not have happened, but it did. In a world of 8 million other great plays he made, offensively and defensively. It happens. It's sports, man. So the season's done. It's painful. It's brutal. Coach Forbes' press conference, man. Whew, go watch that. This team has been so much fun. If you're not somebody that's locked in from the beginning, from back early in the spring, let me just encourage you to do that next year. It's so fun. Going to lose some key critical guys. I mean, gosh, it's tough, but it's over. And Carolina doesn't go to Omaha back to back. The hope of a College World Series title is delayed yet again. It's surely it's got to happen at some point, but it will not be this year. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in with us to kick off a brand new week here on Locked On Tar Heels. Again, great to be back with you. We'll continue to unpack lots of stuff throughout the week. Luka, Bogavac, Alan Lubin off to Raleigh, all of that kind of stuff. More on the house settlement and all that coming up as the week goes on. You guys, if you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that right now so you don't miss a second of the show. If you've not joined Locked On Tar Heels on Discord, we'd love to see you there. And if you want to go even deeper, become a Locked On Tar Heels insider, make that happen as well. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel, even after a painful loss that sends us to off-season mode on Sunday. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.